Hey, what's happening? You're muted.
Sorry. Hello. How's it going?
Hey, doing all right. Living life and all that good stuff. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm okay, thanks. I mean, I don't know. I just thought we could have a chat and see what happens. How does that sound?
Yeah, sure. I haven't watched. I know that you talked to Demon Mama just recently.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah, you wanna? I don't know. Tell me what's up. What's the vibe?
Okay. I guess. Okay. I'll just lay my cards on the table first, so we know what's good. Okay. So like, I'm consider myself like on friendly terms with you. Tell me if I'm wrong, but I consider like with like a kind of friendly professional relationship. I guess we've made content together,
Yeah, I'd say
etc.
so. Yeah.
Um, Okay, cool. And like, I'm friends with Demon Mama, right? So I actually like play video games with Demon Mama in my spare time and stuff like that. So like,
Mm-hmm.
in terms of bias, like I definitely would kind of naturally lean towards more Demon Mama, but I've tried to kind of cover this in like a fair way and approach it with like a broad perspective and stuff like that, right?
Okay.
The reason I want to talk to you now is like I think obviously this is all quite fresh. That obviously emotions are running high. I totally get that.
I mean,
I
yeah,
just
we're watching the hit piece that she made right now.
Okay, yeah, I mean, yeah, obviously that's gonna like be exceptionally high intention and etc. So okay,
Yep.
I guess my first perspective is like, how are you feeling about everything right now?
Before I thought that there was some possibility for reconciliation between me and Demon Mama, but like after seeing what part, like we're only like halfway through the hit piece, and like dear God, literally every other second we have to stop because it's so fucking disingenuous. I am of the opinion that like before I was like mostly of the opinion that she was like irreconcilable, but I still was open to the possibility of like an apology and like moving on from this. But now I'm certainly of that opinion. Like I think that there's no way that she could have gone through and make this video and clipped everything as dishonestly and out of context as possible and misrepresent as many things as possible without acting with a degree of intention in doing so. Like she knows what she's doing, and I find that to be pretty morally reprehensible. So yeah, no, I really want nothing to do with her.
Okay, um, that's fine. What? Okay, what are your kind of main issues with what's happening in the video then?
I mean, God, where do we start? I mean, like, we can talk about like all the dishonest like clip chipping. Like every single time she's shown a clip, it's either been completely irrelevant, used to impugn me personally, saying like trying to imply I'm either like too emotionally invested or whatever, or she's just or she's tried to clip things out of context because she'll usually clip things when I'm yelling, even though she will specifically leave out the context where it shows that clearly she's the person trying to instigate me into yelling. Trying to imply that, oh, I'm just like too irrational to be able to deal with this. She also said this, like she said this both in the debate and also in the video. That I was like, I'm actually really surprised that she said it in the video because like this is like very overtly transphobic, saying that like, oh, I'm too personally invested in trying to like logically justify my own existence as a trans person. Like she said that like again in the video that she made. And like, yeah, that's an ad hom, specifically an ad hom that only works if I'm trans, and I consider that like I agree that that's transphobic. And yeah, like, and also just generally pretty shitty, you know. Like I genuinely try, like it sucks because I genuinely tried to enter into the conversation initially, by what do you call it? By like trying to help her and educate her, like in the way that I, you know, like in the conversation I had with Lumi. Like literally, I could have had the same conversation I had with Lumi as I had with Demon Mama. Or I could have had the same conversation with Demon Mama as I had with Lumiru. But Demon Mama like just attacked me and instigated me, and generally has handled the whole situation pretty terribly. So yeah, no, I like there's a lot of specifics we can get into, or a lot more
Okay.
specifics, but like those are the first things off the top of my head.
Okay. I mean, my understanding is like one of issue of contention here is that what Demon was saying is that she feels like she doesn't really have like a chance to like express her perspective or go on these streams and talk about what's happened.
Well,
And
I
I
mean, like
think
she
there's
can do that. I mean, like my opinion is that like if she does, then she probably knows that she'll be called out for being disingenuous. Is probably why. Like I feel like the only way she could be able to like express a side that's like like a perspective without having it be sufficiently challenged is to not go on the live stream, or go on the live stream with someone who probably like. Let me ask you this: did you actually watch the debate? I'm actually curious.
yeah, I did. I watched the debate on your channel. Yeah.
Okay. So like, do you genuinely believe, like, and I mean, like you said that you hang out with her, so you might be alive, but I mean, like,
Hmm.
I still have to ask, like, do you genuinely believe that she didn't try to, that she wasn't acting like to some degree in bad faith throughout that conversation, like trying to instigate me, being deliberately obtuse and refusing to listen to me, and related things.
Okay. Look, I don't want to start like. Okay. What do you mean by bad faith?
When you choose, so like bad faith, I've defined it a lot over the past couple days. Usually
Hmm.
there's like two elements to define bad faith for me. The first being that when you don't accurately represent what you believe, and the other, though these don't necessarily always overlap, but like when you have your belief sufficiently challenged, or like sufficiently proven to be wrong or at least incorrect, and you choose to deliberately ignore that evidence, the evidence or the arguments that are presented to you, right? So like the fact that I went through 3 hours to explain one point to her, and she just deliberately chose A, not to engage with me, and B, to like respond by attacking me personally and like deliberately trying to edge me on. I think that that's very clearly acting in bad faith. I don't think that any reasonable person could walk away from that situation without believing that, or without agreeing with that assessment.
I mean, okay.
Well, hold on. Do you not agree with that? Like, I genuinely like I. Do you think that she did not try to do any of those things? Like, do you think that she didn't try to do any of those things in the conversation? Like, let's start with that. Like, give like simple yes or no.
Okay. So I think yeah, there were moments where Demon Mama was saying things, and certainly on like watching it from as a third party, I got the kind of impression there was a bit of prodding going on at you, right? Like there was an
Mm-hmm.
effort to like, irritate you, and like I kind of look at it and I think, what was the reason for that, right? And like
Yeah.
I
No, I
get
wonder too.
so, and I think okay, so my and I want people to understand like this is like quite awkward for me to kind of I don't like the idea of stepping in to like two trans people speaking about gender, for example, and like
Mm-hmm.
giving my hot take because I don't really like know enough about this stuff to really know like
Okay.
if you know what I mean. But like my read on it is that I think that it's like a very difficult topic for people to
Um.
contend with,
Yeah. No.
and like
I was talking about this with Lumira the other day. I think that
mhm,
if she I think that if she didn't understand anything that I was expressing, well, I mean, there's a couple things, right? So first, if she didn't understand any of the concepts I was expressing, because I've heard a couple of people say, "Oh, well, Riley could have expressed it clearer." Even though I feel like I expressed it clear, a lot of people have said, "Oh, it's still hard to understand." I could understand that. I think that that would just be reason to say that, like, "Oh, hey, Riley, this is really interesting. I don't fully understand it, so if you want to, like, I'll just need more time to think about this off stream," right? Like, she could have gone that way, or conversely, if this was something that was like, well, I mean, like conversely. So that's the first part, right? If she didn't
mhm.
understand anything, then she like there's an ethical way to understand, like not to go about not understanding something, right? Like you just ask for either clarification, which he never did, or you just like be like, hey, this is a really cool topic, like respectfully indicate that you just need more time to think about something, right? And then beyond that, even if she didn't understand, or even if this was a sensitive topic for her, that's no excuse to like take it out on me personally, right? Like just because something is sensitive for you does not justify you like personally attacking the other person that you're talking to the subject about.
Sure. I mean, I think there were times at the conversation where it seemed like there was an expression of a desire to like end the conversation, though.
Well, I mean, a lot of the times when she was trying to end it, it was usually on a note where it was specifically like after she had gotten me to be very like agitated. And so it came
Right.
across more that she was either like being deliberately obtuse and refusing to listen to me, and where she was very much like not like personally put off by it, right? And also like where like effectively it was just kind of like she was trying to do like a gotcha, because she was trying to do a gotcha like throughout the entirety of the conversation, right? I don't think that's a hard read for anyone to go back and see that like she was trying to get like a gotcha on me the whole time. For example, when she kept bringing up like dysphoria, like she was probably trying to do a gotcha there, being like, oh, are you trying to say that someone needs dysphoria? It's like, no, I never said that, and I'm never implying it, right? Like trying to do a gotcha and then get me to admit to a position that's not representative of my views, and then just like drop call from there. But I really was trying to get through to her. I was really trying to genuinely help her.
Okay. Okay. I guess one thing I thought as well is like it seemed like there was a great importance from your end in like having that conversation there and then and hashing it out there and then as well. Like, what was the
Yeah, no,
reason
I was
for that?
legitimately concerned about her. If she wanted to end the call, then she could. I mean, like, I'm not gonna tell her to. I ended the call. Like, I hung up. If she really wanted to, then like, a lot of people are telling me like, oh, I was keeping her in the call. Like, you can hang up a call if you want to. Like you can. Like, I wasn't keeping her there.
Okay. I don't know.
Like,
Like,
do you
I'm
like
just,
do you like it's easy, like literally right now I could press the end call button between us and the conversation will be over. The reason that I'm not ending the call is because I want to talk to you. I want to engage in the conversation. But if I didn't want the conversation to go on, then I could just like end the call, right? Like if she didn't want the conversation to go on, she could just end the call.
sure, but that would be like a bit like standoffish, no? Like
I
that would
mean,
be a
like
bit
if she
weird,
didn't
a
want to be
weird thing to do.
standoffish, then she couldn't like impugn me personally multiple times over the conversation. Like if we want to talk, like if we want to say, oh, you know, that would have been like terrible for her to do, that would have been like morally impugn, then she didn't have to like impugn me personally. She didn't have to say that I was being too angry or emotional or saying that I couldn't handle this rationally because I'm just trying to justify my own experience. Like if we're trying, like if we're doing the, oh, you know, she was trying to do the good thing card, like she crossed that line way. She crossed that line way at many times throughout the conversation, right? Like clearly it was not just like, oh, she was actively thinking of the best, most ethical ways to handle the conversation when she was deliberately trying to egg me on.
Okay. Oh, I don't know. I feel like I'm not doing a very good job of this, to be honest.
Well, I mean, I don't know. I mean, what are you trying to do? I mean, like, I understand the situation. I think that like
Okay.
the one, I like if the resolution is what you want, I think that like the one way this could have resolved is if after the situation, if she approached me and was like, hey, I'm sorry, Riley, I realized that I really egged you on that conversation. I handled it really
Okay.
unfairly. I don't know what got to me. I just, you know, it was a stressful situation and whatever. And like if she would have apologized to me and then shown that she wasn't going to do those same things in conversations going forward, because apparently it's a problem for her, and I'm learning that after the fact, then, you know, like then I would have been like, all right, you know, like I want restitution. And if you genuinely want to improve and move on, then I will too. But she went and made this video.
Okay. Okay. So first of all, I think I understand why I'm having difficulty here. Okay, and
Okay.
it's not because of you at all. Okay, nothing to do with you. So I think when I went into the conversation with Nima Mama, I was more of just like investigative, trying to find out what's going on.
Sure.
And I've come into this conversation, and I feel like I'm kind of trying to like justify things that happen and stuff like that. But like, I'm not. I didn't want to do that. I'm not here to impugn anyone or say this person's wrong and that person's
Sure.
wrong. I just want to understand like each person's perspective and how it went down.
Yeah.
Like,
No, I get that.
so you know, like I appreciate like you saying like, oh, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? If possible, I'd like to just kind of move away from that a little bit, just so I can get a better understanding of like the course of events as they
Well, I
played
mean,
out.
like,
Okay.
sure, but I mean, in order to be able to understand the course of events, like we have to acknowledge like certain kind of moral faults, right? Like we have to be able to acknowledge them, because if we don't, then we are not able to understand how the conversation went over the way that it did. So like for example, like the reason why things escalated in the first place, as opposed to saying like at a very like neutral level, like the reason why is very specific. It's because she specifically tried to instigate conflict throughout the conversation. Like that's the reason, right? And if you don't if we can't agree on that, then we can't. Then like the rest of the conversation doesn't make sense, you know? Because then it's like, oh well, like basically in her video, she was just like, oh well, things just happened to get superheated for like no reason, you know? We don't know why things got superheated, but they, you know, just happened to get heated. Like while basically ignoring the fact that she was the one causing the heatedness, right? Like we have to be able to acknowledge that, otherwise like she's able to get away with mischaracterizing things, and you know we're not able to like bring in that relevant context.
Okay. I feel like that doing that is like I've got to like sort of impugn Demon Mama in
Okay,
order for
well,
us to have this
I mean, like it might be
conversation.
not.
Do you know what
Well,
I mean? And
I'm not asking.
I don't want to do like you know, I'm not coming to this. I'm not coming into this thinking you've done something wrong. She's done something wrong. It's more a case of like, I don't know. Do you see what I mean? I just want to talk a bit more about what happened in the series of events and things like that.
Well, I mean, like I get
Maybe
that.
that's
I don't know.
possible.
Like it's. I mean, like I can understand that, but I also want to make sure that you aren't like trying to essentially like maintain a relationship at the cost of deliberately ignoring the misgiving someone does. Like with me and my relationships with people, like I do very well to make sure that I always acknowledge when someone fucks up, because I want to, as a good friend, hold them accountable, right? Like for example, I've gotten a lot of heat because I have a relationship with Calvin Guerra, right? And I'm going to be the first to be able to admit that, even though he's come under a lot of shit. And going back to the fact that I don't abandon my relationships, the reason why is because I've never said ever that he hasn't fucking harmed people, because he has. But also I know that by virtue of my relationship with him, that I'm able to get him to acknowledge that wrong and get him to acknowledge that harm so that he can improve on himself. And I mean, ultimately, he ended up citing me as one of the main reasons that he ended up moving on various positions of his, right? Even if he's not full, even if he hasn't come over fully or done exactly what people wanted to, like there was a material good that came out of that because I recognized and held his feet to the fire because I'm his friend, right? And I think that's important to do the same thing here if you're a friend of Demon Mama. You know, if you have a relationship with her, I think it's important to acknowledge, hey, maybe you shouldn't say that someone is just trying to justify their own experience as a trans person. Like, that sounds like kind of transphobic, you know? If you do that, then that necessarily means that you're ad homing at someone, and that the ad hom only works by virtue of the fact that someone's trans, and it's explicitly trying to harm them. That sounds pretty transphobic. You know, like, I feel like if I were Demon Mama's friend in your position, I would be very forthright with that criticism, and so I could try to get her to understand and change, you know? Now, I'm not her friend, so I'm not going to be able to do that, but I feel like a good friend would actually try to hold her feet to the fire a little bit because they care about her, you know? Because they don't want her to do, like, morally bad things, right?
Sure, but I mean, I'm sure you can appreciate, like, if I wanted to do that, I could, like, have a chat with Demon Mama privately and
could.
go over that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah.
And I don't think that it's necessary for me to, like, do that, like, now, right? Like, I just wanted to have a broader conversation about the stuff that's happened.
Well, yeah, but I mean, like, it's important. Well, the reason why that's important is because, like, we need to be able to agree if she's done some morally bad things, right? That's the reason why, is because, like, I think as a friend, like, I don't know, I'm perfectly okay. Destiny is hosting with one streamer, or one viewer. Oh, thanks, I appreciate it. I think that it's like, I think that, like, what do you call it? I think that it's like morally. I would say it's even like a more like a maybe a moral requirement. I think that it's at least a good thing to do. One viewer, Andy, I know, right? I think it's a good thing to do to make sure that when your friend fucks up, that you actually make sure that you're honest with your friend about them fucking up, so that you can get them to acknowledge that they fucked up and be able to, like, make some kind of restitution, right? And that doesn't mean that, like, acknowledging that fucking up means you're not that person's friend. To me, if acknowledging that a friend fucks up is like if someone takes that to mean that they're not your friend, I feel like that's a pretty shitty friend, you know? Like, if I fuck up, I want my friends to tell me that I fuck up. I want to make sure that I'm not just, like, operating without any kind of degree of feedback.
Yep. I can do all of that. I guess what's making me feel a bit uncomfortable is I feel like I'm being put in this position where I've got to, like, say, Demon Mama said something that's transphobic, and she acted, like, with this bad morality, and, like, I feel that's quite strong wording, and, like.
Okay, well, I mean, like, well, then we can just go through these one at a time. Like, do you think that it's like, do you think that it's an issue? Well, I mean, like, all right, then let's define, like, morally bad. All right, morally good, morally bad. All right, so do you think that acting in bad faith necessarily means that you're doing a morally bad thing? Like, let's start there.
Okay, I just don't think this is what I came here for. Like,
okay, I mean, like, if it's not, well, I mean, all right, fine. I just want you, then I don't want to put you in a box. I'm just saying that, like, if you're trying to get, like, my take on it, like, I feel like the facts are pretty clear on this. Like a lot of people are treating this like it's a really nuanced conversation. Like, it's not, you know? Like, anyone who watches the video, I think any reasonable person can watch the video and come away with understanding that, like, Demon Mama fucked up, right? I think that that's, like, the reasonable average interpretation of the video. I don't think that there's a whole lot of room for misinterpretation of that if you're even slightly socially cognizant of the shit that she's doing in the course of it, you know? And so to me, like, having a conversation that basically, like, removes any kind of culpability for those actions, like, is, like, very reductive in discussing what happened.
Like, I'm not trying to, like, remove any culpability. Like, I'm not trying to say Demon Mama didn't do anything wrong. Like, I think Demon Mama did things that were wrong. Like, absolutely, I completely agree with that. And, you know, like, when, in fact, at the end, when Demon Mama said, you know, the thing to you, I could tell, like, how upset you were. Right? Like, I was like, look, regardless of the intent, I can't remember the exact words I said, but regardless of the intent of what Demon Mama said here, like, clearly this is upset and hurt Riley, and that's fucked up, right? So, like, I'm happy to agree with you on these points, but I don't know. I feel like we're getting to the stage where I have to, like, say these certain things about it, and I just don't feel comfortable doing that. And it's not because I don't, you know, like, I don't know. I don't know.
Well, yeah. So I mean, if you don't want to talk about it, then we don't have to. But I mean, like, I don't know. I like if I were in your position, like, I don't know, like you can tell me if I'm misrepresenting. It seems like you're in a hard place because Demon Mom is your friend, and you don't want to like be seen in public like agreeing with criticisms about her. Like, is that basically it? Because that seems.
I can understand why that might be the perception, but it's not a case of like not wanting to agree with criticisms. Like I've just given
Okay.
a criticism of Demon Mama then.
Okay. Well, yeah. But I mean, like, so then I don't really get what the issue is. Like, if it's not like the issue, if the issue isn't like levying criticism against Demon Mama, like if your intent is to like go over the criticism so that you can go back to her and like actually try to like make some kind of restitution, I'm all for it. You know, I'm not here to tell you exactly what to do with the contents of this conversation. Like, if you want to like leave this with the ability to like take criticisms and like bring them to her and have like a good convo and be like, hey, you know, you did these things, it's kind of fucked up that you did these things, you know, you might want to reflect on them and like, you know, hopefully improve her as a person, then like that's totally fine, you know. But we have to be able to agree that she fucked up and the ways that she fucked up in order to be able to get to that point, even, you know.
Okay. Well, I mean, one question I've got for you is like, so I agree and I admit that Demon Mama fucked up in this conversation, okay? And there were things that she did that were wrong.
Okay.
Do you think at any point you made mistakes or fucked up in this conversation?
I think so. At least in terms of like I could have been clear, because a lot of people are saying that like I wasn't clear after the fact. So like when I was talking to Destiny, he gave me a lot of ways to be able to like explain the specific issue I was getting at that I found to be very useful. Like, for example, using analogies to like transracialism really cuts to the heart of one of the issues that we were talking about. Also knowing the difference between individuals and categories. I also was able to talk to someone who knows a lot more about formal logic, about what exactly a tautology is, how that isn't what Demon Mama is using in that situation. And also just being able to explore more like about like a possibility, like a possible way of using a self-ID definition that could work logically while avoiding the issue that we were talking about, right? So I know ways now that I could be able to like better explain those points in the future if I ever have those kind of conversations. So yeah, no, like I think that there are ways I could be able to improve. Yeah.
Okay, so that's obviously like looking at the logic side of things. I'm going to be honest, like I'm not a philosophizer. The logic stuff, I'm a bit.
Sure.
Bit
Well, I mean, like it
hopeless on.
seemed like if we're saying that like a lot of the issues came from the fact that like that like there was a misunderstanding at some point, then like I see it as because like I genuinely tried, like I literally the entire time was just trying to explain one point, right? And so like, you know, if I just needed to do better on explaining that point, then yeah, no, I'm totally there. Like I'm always willing to try and like oh god, transracial. Oh good god, translation. Well, I mean, like as an example, Joe Lewis, we can talk about later. Basically, it's the idea that like, oh well, if self-identification is the only sufficient criteria for being a gender, then that means that like transracialism probably applies well. That you could just like identify as a different race, and that's all that you need to be that race, right? That's essentially the example, because we would never, because like most people would probably say that, well, you just can't identify as another race, and that's what makes you that race, right? And there's a similar kind of idea for gender. That there's like at least some kind of underlying fact of the matter, whatever it is. I focus on like, you know, like we can have an entire different conversation, but basically that's the way that it would be used in these kind of conversations. Sorry, I just read that in chat and wanted to comment on it.
No,
but yeah,
so
like
don't worry about it. I sorry. So what I was getting at is like you've kind of spoken about like Demon Mama's interpersonal conduct in the conversation. Like, do you think there were any issues with your like interpersonal conduct in the conversation?
I probably wouldn't say so. I mean, there are times that I definitely got like heated, but I would say that just about all that was as a consequence of how Demon Mama was acting. I don't think that at any point that I was acting heated in a way that was not initially instigated by Demon Mama. So I think that like in those cases, like the behavior is like, yeah, like I started yelling, but like it's justified. Like, for example, a lot of people are saying like, oh, Riley, you shouldn't have hung up with her and said, fuck you. Before that, she literally said that I was like too irrational and trying to justify my own experience to be able to handle the situation properly. I feel like saying, fuck you, have a nice day is a pretty adequate response to that. Probably even like a little lighter than I could have gone.
Okay. And one thing I noted in the video that you uploaded, is that at the start there was this clip that wasn't in like the wider debate, which was about book smarts. What was the reason for putting that clip in at the start?
Yeah, providing extra context. I thought that it was a clip from earlier in that same conversation that didn't make sense to me in that context that it was presented in, but made a lot more sense once I had the debate. I put it there specifically to provide additional context to the viewers, like only adding information and not taking it away.
Okay. Because I'm just wondering if you think that maybe that could have an impact on the perception of the conversation. Maybe.
I mean, like, I think it certainly may have altered the perception, but I don't think it did that. Like, if it alters the perception, there's a question of whether it did it unjustly so or not. And I think that, like, actually it probably did it. Like, I would say that's a justified use of that clip to alter the perception, because it makes people aware that Demon Mama had been known by other people, at least, to have acted in bad faith. And so I think it's important to be able to put that at the beginning of the debate, to be able to show that, like, oh, this is the reason why Booksmart said this. It's not like Booksmarts just said this and it, like, only exists in the vacuum, or that Booksmarts is being unreasonable. No, literally later in that same conversation, she demonstrated that to actually be true. That she was, like, Booksmart's opinion that she is a bad faith actor that should be avoided.
Okay. And then obviously after the conversation happened, like, there's a lot of different information about Destiny getting involved in this. I mean, I you know, my perception is like Destiny doesn't like Demon Mama, right? So like his interest in this, to me, it seems like it was partly out of this dislike that he has of this person. So like,
I mean, like, maybe. So,
Yeah.
like, the thing with that is that, like, there's a couple things about this, right? It wasn't necessarily surprising. Mind you, I didn't get Destiny involved in this. I learned about his involvement after the stream, after he'd already announced the stream was happening. And basically, I was like, oh, shit, well, time to do damage control. And so I went on, and the first thing that I talked to him about, well, the first thing was, like, catching up on the context, but then literally, like, talking to him for a half hour about making sure that his community doesn't harass trans people. I feel like that's, like, the most ethical way to respond to that situation. Like, it's really weird that Demon Mama hasn't included at any point in this conversation the fact that literally, like, a large part of the discussion I had with Destiny was specifically about making sure that his community doesn't cause her harm, right? It's really weird that that's, like, completely omitted so far. Maybe she talks about it later. I don't know yet. But, like, oh, what was I saying? Oh, but it wasn't necessarily surprising to me because, like, just from what little I knew of the Destiny Demon Mama debate, I had known that, like, at least I knew that the Destiny perception, or, like, the DGG perception of that, was that she acted massively in bad faith. I didn't have a strong opinion on that up until my debate with her. But then afterwards, I was like, oh, shit. She actually just does this constantly. And apparently she had also done the same thing in a debate she had with the Scrub King, who might be in my chat right now. But essentially, like, it kind of made sense insofar as, like, Destiny like probably was able to recognize, oh shit, well, here's a debate with someone who clearly no one is going to say is impugnable in the same way that he is. So it might be a good way to be able to actually explore the fact that, like, she is a bad faith actor in most of these conversations. The opening topic IRC in Destiny stream is RGR begging Destiny to tell DGG to be respectful and not to brigade anybody. Yes, thank you. But I don't know. Maybe people just don't watch me or see anything that I do. But yeah, so that's kind of my take.
Like, you know, what one like with Destiny, like, I do genuinely believe Destiny takes an effort to, like, say, hey, look, don't brigade people, I'll ban you. Like, I think that's good. But you know, I think that, like, you know, these things go beyond what any one streamer can say about their audience or the people that follow them. And it kind of,
well, I mean, like, what's the implication of that? That he can't talk? I mean, like, here, I want to be reasonable. Like, essentially, like, if we're taking that to its extreme, that just means that, like, certain streamers just can't talk about anything because even despite their best efforts, their audience, like, an extremely small part, or like people who choose to not listen to him in his own audience, like, go out and, like, directly disobey his orders, right? And I mean, like, at that point, I'm not sure if that's something that we can necessarily hold against him personally.
Sure, no, I actually agree with you, and to me, my saying that isn't like a critique of any individual streamer. Like, you know, I don't think DGG is, like, uniquely bad. There's other communities that have these issues, and it's a broader, like, societal or systemic issue that exists with these things, rather than it being the fault of, like, the individual streamer. I don't know. I just think that you know, from my perception, like, it seems that Destiny, and like, I saw people in your chat saying Demon Mama doesn't like Destiny, and yeah, I agree with you. They hate each other's guts. Do you see what I mean? And
yeah, like, I mean, I can see that, but I mean, like, I think it's important here. Like, if I had the genuine impression that Destiny was, like, just trying to, like, steer his community or steer hate towards Demon Mama, then I would be critical of him. But my genuine impression after the conversation with him is that he was primarily watching to evaluate the merits of the debate, and honestly to give me a lot of, like, pointers and information. Because, like, I learned a lot. I learned more from my conversation with him as far as, like, feedback than I've learned a very long time in terms of, like, just, like, learning and, like, reading about, like, debate rhetoric and whatnot, right? Like, he gave me a lot of really good pointers, and I can't look at that and be like, oh wow, he was such a bad faith actor. Oh wow, he was just trying to shit on Demon Mama. When to me, there's a pretty
Okay.
clear alternative reason that he was involved, right? Like to actually evaluate
Sure.
the merits of the debate and give me feedback.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not coming. You know, I don't want it to seem like I'm coming in to say, "Oh, Destiny, all Destiny wanted to do is fucking shield Demon Mama." And like,
Mhm.
it's not. I'm not making that point, but you know, I guess the question I'd ask is, do you think Destiny would have like watched the debate and whatnot if it wasn't Demon Mama that you were debating?
I mean, probably not.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, like,
and
I don't
like,
know. I think
yeah.
that, so, like, there's a couple things about it, right? Like, I can see
Mhm.
that, like, oh, it was only tied to his personal interest, or it was tied to his personal interest, therefore he had, like, an investment in it. I think that, like, we can take it different ways for, like, oh, well, the reason why he watched, because it was Demon Mama, right? So, like, you can interpret that either to mean that, like, he watched it because Demon Mama was involved because he hates Demon Mama, or he watched because Demon Mama was involved because he knows that she uses, like, really bad faith debate tactics, right? I'm more inclined to believe the latter over the forum or over the former, because he like explicitly acknowledged that like during our conversation he was like, well, I mean, like, you know, some people will say that like I have these takes just because, you know, I like just because I hate Demon Mama, and like he wasn't sure, like it's impossible to know like exactly like what our entire motivations are, right? Like people are complicated, they could have like a number of different motivations. But like my genuine impression is that is that he wanted to watch because he knew from personal experience that Demon Mama was prone to acting or using bad faith tactics in debates because he had been in one, and therefore it would be interesting to look at one with me. But again, I mean, like I say all that. That's like that's speculative, but it's also speculative
Sure.
to say that like that's speculative,
Yeah.
but it's just as speculative to say that the reason that he did it was to like explicitly cause harm to Demon Mama. You know?
Sure. I mean, the only thing I would point to that maybe provides a bit of extra context, and like, I'm not looking to like morally impugn anyone, just to be clear, okay? Like, I know there's probably people in chat that are very mad at me right now. That's fine. I can deal with that. But like, I remember the last conversation that I think Destiny had with Demon Mama. It was the one you may remember it, where I think it was around Christmas, and Destiny was like kind of just memeing on Demon Mama for the conversation, and then afterwards says something along the lines of like, Demon Mama's like a harm to these communities, and if
Mm-hmm.
I ever bring her on, it would just be to mock her and make fun of her. That's it. I don't want to like shed light on her or something like that.
I
So
know
so
that. Yeah, yeah, I
sorry,
remember.
go
Well, I
on.
mean, like we watched a clip earlier where it's essentially the like, yeah, Demon Mama, they're essentially like what you just said, yeah.
Hmm. And to me, like I don't like making the jump to like, oh well, that definitely means that he was like, I don't necessarily think that, but it just lends credence to the idea that like, you know, maybe there's a
Mm.
degree here where Destiny's perspectives are sort of colored by this viewpoint, and it's having
Well, I
an
mean,
impact on things.
you
I'm
realize that
not
we're
saying
making
necessarily in the narratives.
like we're
Sorry,
making
go
a
on.
lot of logical leaps here. Like basically
Hmm.
because he
Okay.
made some comments about the fact that he didn't like Demon Mama like a couple months ago, that he went into this conversation explicitly in order to cause harm to her. Like
Wait,
that's a
wait,
lot
no,
of
sorry.
logical leaps
That's
here.
listen. I'm not okay. I feel like you're really misrepresenting my point now. Like, I'm not saying he specifically went in to cause harm to her. Like,
Okay.
I guess okay, okay. I guess the point I make to you is this, right?
Okay.
The reason I wanted to understand all this is there's a lot, like, okay, there's a lot going on here, right? And like I
Sure.
say, I'm friends with Deepa Mama. I consider myself on friendly terms with you,
Sure.
and it's like I'm still trying to figure it all out and figure out exactly what I think and how I feel about things, right? And like, part of this is hearing your perspective and hearing your side of it to kind
Hmm.
of piece together exactly the full picture of it. And then I don't know what I'm going to do with that information. You know, it seems at the moment like it's very heated, obviously, which I totally understand. I don't know what the future holds, but I just hope that maybe there's some semblance of peace that can come from this. I don't know. Maybe I'm being a bit, you know, utopian in thinking that.
Yeah, I mean, like, I would have certainly liked that. I'm just gonna express that, like, I'm not exactly optimistic about it. Like, if we wanted
Hmm.
some kind of resolution, it would have had to come from, like, an apology from her. And, I don't know, just my take on it is that she's dug her feet in as much as possible, given the video. So I do not expect any kind of apology coming from her anytime soon. But you know, like I'm not gonna hold my breath if it happens. Like maybe she takes down the video, maybe she makes like a really heartfelt apology, and then like, you know, like we can see what happens. But like I'm not holding my breath.
Okay. Well, I think we'll leave it there.
Okay.
Thanks for having a conversation with me. I really appreciate it. Okay, I've got a bit more insight from speaking to you.
Mhm.
And yeah,
All right.
hopefully we'll speak again soon. Okay.
Yeah, sounds good. Yeah, no, I hope you have a good day. Yeah, it was good talking to you.
You too. Catch you later. Bye bye.
Bye.